It's not often these days on Class 1 rail systems that we rail fans get to hear the fresh sound of a Leslie horn. Welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails. It's the 8th of May, 2021, also known around the country this day as National Train Day, which is celebrated every year on the Saturday closest to May 10th, and this year, we're out on the S-Line. With reports from both a South and Central Florida friend, who both happen to be named Christian, we would hear that Q452 coming out of Miami's Hialeah yard with mixed freight traffic bound for Waycross, Georgia, would have CSX 3194, the spirit of our law enforcement, leading the way northbound. One of 3 CSX specially painted honor locomotives, this one for law enforcement. Equipped with a Leslie Super Typhon RS5T horn from the Seaboard System era, it would be quite the start to the day to follow this train up the S-Line, since he'd be taking a special routing today. After usually making a stop in Lakeland's Winston Yard, changing crews, and sometimes rail cars, would continue north from there up to Waycross. And today, he's doing that via Plant City, coming west from Winston, taking the connection to turn northward at Plant City, and then continuing north on the S-Line to Vitus Junction, as opposed to coming east out of Winston Yard, turning north at Lakeland Junction, then taking the Vitus subdivision north to Vitus Junction from that side. This way, we could follow right alongside the train as they speed north. Just after 9:30 a.m., the train rounds the corner in downtown to momentarily pass us at Calhoun Street and what used to be Plant City Yard. From here, we'd have to try to get back on the other side of the tracks so we could follow the train northward, and going back to this one neighborhood, there were 2 crossings that we had a chance to beat the train across, but we couldn't make it to the first one, and after trying for the second one, we realized that one was too late too. So we'd have to wait for the entire train to go by before we could continue our pursuit. However, after realizing our failure and looking around to see how I can make the best of it, I spotted a Plant City police officer sitting under the I-4 overpass, and I knew what opportunity was right in front of me. Huge shout out to this officer for being so friendly. After informing the deputy of the train approaching, she was more than happy to get out and watch the train with us and allow me to capture this unique photo. Quite a few other people have done this already, but it's pretty neat to have had the opportunity to do it myself. What can I say? I guess it was meant to happen, because if our original plan had worked, this opportunity wouldn't have shown itself. This scene really goes to show some of the reasoning behind Eric Hendrickson's development of these locomotives, including the 911 in 1776. Via his words from Facebook, "There's no amount of money that can be paid for the pride the officer likely feels. Even if one person smiles, it was worth it." End of the train would pass, and we'd have to bid farewell to our new friend. With Q452 being clear of the Plant City connection, he can gain his speed back. And only being just shy of 4,000 feet long, it didn't take a lot to get back up to speed, to which we didn't find his bottom end again until about halfway to Nights. which is about 6 miles north of where we just were under I-4.
Clear Central, locomotive 3194, 52 south, northbound up.
Making the right turn onto Chansey Road to make it out toward Vitus, we would once again get stopped by the train thanks to this pesky semi-driver in front of us. But the horn still sounded sweet as he sped through rural Zephyr Hills. Roughly 8 miles later, and we're cruising through the crossovers at Richland, midway through the Vitus Super Siding, which ends at the control point of Ellerslie, right about where we catch back up to the north end. I was surprised at how slowly the crew was moving today, but it did help us out a bit, as that semi-truck was still in front of us taking its time. Our next setup spot would be the south end of Dade City, or the south end of the siding, that is, which is that track on the left. The curve would make for a nice shooting location, since we would return here after we were done with this train. Our last location will be just off US 301 at what I believe to be County Road 771. We're positioned roughly halfway between Dade City and Bushnell. I had viewed this spot on maps a number of times, and it was cool to now give it a shot. I'd say it was pretty nice. As I mentioned, 452 is a mixed manifest freight train coming north out of Miami, Florida's Hialeah rail yard, with traffic from Miami area industries, as well as possibly Okeechobee and Sebring. He commonly also makes a stop at Palm Center, which is South Florida's automobile distribution center, though it doesn't look like he made that stop this morning, as he didn't have any auto racks in his train, making him that 4,000 foot long shorty I mentioned from earlier. Whew. After 10 minutes of video time, the chase of this train is finally done, to which we'd head back south from here to Dade City to meet up with my Central Florida friend Christian, and some other folks later in the day to see what else would come, which, disclaimer alert, wasn't much. But by no means a bad day. As you may be able to tell off in the distance, the huge pile of old railroad ties which had been sitting in the field for an untold amount of time has finally been removed, with some influence in that decision having come from the Dade City Depot personnel. Word is also that the county will soon be in here to cut down the rest of that vegetation. Otherwise though, today was beautiful to sit and relax, with temperatures only reaching the high 70s, clear skies and a clear mind made for an absolutely beautiful day in early May, even with as few trains as there were. It was just after 11 a.m. now, and we wouldn't see another train through here until almost 3 p.m. And that train would be Q453, one of the only other daily movements through this area in daylight, the southbound sister of Q452 from this morning with 3194, now mostly loaded mixed freight out of Waycross, Georgia, with the final destination being the end of the line in Miami. Q453 flying south out of Waycross. More grain for Okeechobee, mixed freight for Miami, and some stuff maybe for Winston, as he'll make a stop there once he gets down there. Also, as he speeds south, a little more information on Dade City's upcoming Railfest just next month. I got the date wrong last time I mentioned this. It's actually Friday, June 18th, from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. Though more stuff may be added before the event comes. Currently at the event there is set to be food, small and large model trains, speakers, and an in-progress request to CSX for a quick safety presentation at the museum sometime during the event. Again, I hope to see a lot of y'all out here, as it will be a fun night. Also, some additional information regarding the museum. This small house track that resides in the dirt just outside the depot, which has been there since 1886, was soon to be pulled up by CSX employees due to the fact that it was just taking up space and not being used. However, with some begging from the museum folks, the decision was made to leave it there, as eventually the museum will get its own railroad car to sit on that track and be used as what will likely be a railroad library. Again, more info on this stuff will come as progress continues. As I mentioned earlier, Q453 made his regular stop at Wildwood Yard to switch some things out, and in the process held up 2 unit trains, one being a phosphate train and the second being an ethanol train combined with a phosphate train. And as a result, the phosphate train was first and was right behind the 453, down to 5 minutes behind the 453. So here he came down the hill just minutes later, K821. As needed phosphate empties off of the Canadian Pacific at Bensenville, Illinois, back down to CSX's Bone Valley, starting at Winston Yard in Lakeland. K821 is a unit train ID that we've received back just recently, another unit train of empty phosphate hoppers off of the Class 1 Railroad Canadian Pacific. CSX delivers diammonium phosphate loads to customers up north, and then when the empty trains are ready to come home, they haul them back down to the Bone Valley with these unit trains, commonly carrying foreign power since, well, they're coming back off of other railroads. An unusually long one too, 9,000 feet long, clocked for a train which usually doesn't break 6,000. I doubt they needed the extra engine, but considering they added that lead CSX engine on the train at Waycross, they may have just been taking extra measures to avoid another incident of the unit train fiasco. As much as I had hoped for otherwise, this would be our last train of the day, as that ethanol and phosphate train that I mentioned was behind this one ran out of crew hours up at Wildwood and wouldn't make it down here till well after sunset. We would have to leave by that time, so that just wasn't on our criteria for today. But again, by no means a bad day. A beautiful day, in fact, weather-wise and train-wise. CSX 3194 leading, and a Phosphate train with a really clean Canadian Pacific rebuilt AC44 trailing. I don't know, I'd say National Train Day this year was pretty good. And especially these days, because quality over quantity is what I've come to accept. Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate it as always, and hopefully, if you tend to stick around, I'll see you somewhere next time on the Sunshine State Rails.